Hello my friends and welcome back to my channel. I'm Ellie Lee and this is Ellie Lee Designs, where I bring you all things DIY that you can enjoy whether you are an experienced DIYer or a beginner. In today's tutorial, I'm going to show you how I use removable vinyl to create a shadow box that you can use in your home decor or in your office. But before we get started, let's take a look at the things that you'll need to complete this project. So the first thing you'll need is your cutting machine. It can be a Cricut Maker like I'm using today, or you can use any other brand of cutting machine. You're also going to need a shadow box of your choice or a photo box. I'm going to be using an 8x8 size. Your transfer tape, your removable vinyl. I'm going to be using white. I'm also going to be using this pattern this pattern of paper for my background in my photo box. You'll need a little squeegee to apply your vinyl, a pair of scissors, your weeding tool. I'm using my pin pen weeding tool. Your cutting mat, for me it's going to be my light grip cutting mat for my Cricut machine because I'm using paper and I don't want it to stick too much onto the standard mats. Those are a little bit stickier. And I'm going to be using coffee grounds today, or coffee beans today, for this particular project. Now it's time to jump into Cricut Design Space. We're going to go ahead and create our own template for this design. And we're going to start by selecting the text box. We'll do that a couple of times and type in the word break. We'll select text again and type in glass in case. Select the text box again and type of. And one more time, select the text box and type in emergency. And all of your letters or all of your text boxes are going to be on top of each other, so you can go ahead and spread those out. And before we go into sort of organizing it in the way we want, I'm going to go ahead and first change the font. So I'm going to start with the word break, and I'm going to go up here to the font section and click here, and go to the systems, and then I'm going to type sign and click on the sign painter font. So now you see that we can change the size of this particular font, but one of the things that I notice here is that the word break, the letters are very separated. It really makes it look weird. So that's something we're gonna fix. But before we do that, I'm gonna click on the word emergency and do the same thing. I wanna use the same font because I don't wanna use more than 2 different styles of fonts. And you can see the word emergency has the letters pretty spread out too. So we're gonna fix that. And we'll start with the word emergency, and then we will move on to break. So the first thing that we wanna do is we wanna click on advance at the top here and click ungroup letters. And what that's going to do is going to make each letter a single item that you can select and move around in whatever way you like. You can even size them, whatever you prefer to do. So I'm going to undo that just to keep it the same size. But what I'd like to do before I start moving the letters is make this E a little bigger. And then I'm going to start moving the other letters next to it. I'm just kind of put them close enough where it looks nicer. There we go. The C and the Y. And then I'm going to select all of the smaller letters, come up to the top where it says align, click on that, and then I'm going to align top. And the reason I selected align top for this particular word is if you go back to align and you click align bottom, you'll see that the letters move down to the bottom of the G and the Y, and it looks really weird that way. So we want to go ahead and come back up here to align, click on align top, and then it'll put them together nicely, aligned at the top of the letters. And then I'm going to group these just so that they are one set together, and if I wanted to resize or do anything like that, I can do just that section. So I'm going to make it a little smaller there, and then once I've put that where I want that to be, I will go ahead and group that word together as one word. So now we're gonna go to break and we're gonna do the same exact thing. Now we've got break and emergency are adjusted the way I'd like to have them, and I'm going to make the words glass in case smaller and start organizing my design to get it how I'd like it to look. Okay, so now I'm gonna drag over the entire item. I'm going to group it so it's just one piece, and then I'm going to duplicate it. And the reason I want to do that is if I want to make any changes to it later, I will have another a duplicate of the original one, and I can go back and make the necessary changes. Once you weld an item, you can't undo it. So you want to make sure you make a duplicate just in case you have to go back. So now I'm going to go ahead and go to the lower right hand corner here and click on weld. But before we cut it out, I'm going to go to shapes. I'm going to select my square, and I'm going to make this square the measurement of the glass that I am using, or the measurement of the surface that I'm using, and that's a 6.25. So right click and send to back and bring our design to the front. And the reason I've done this is I want the square to act as our surface so that I can play around with the size of our design and get an idea of what it will look like once we put it on the photo box. I'd like to make our design 5.5 inches. Oops. There we go. And that's more or less the size of what it'll look like once it's on the glass, and I'm very happy with that. So I'm going to click on the box and exit out, and then we are all set to make it. Now once you get to the next screen, you're going to see your mat and then the options that we looked at in our last video where we were working with HTV, but in this case we're doing the removable vinyl. But with HTV, we had to mirror our design, and in this particular case, you don't need to do that. So you can skip right over to continue. And once your machine has connected via Bluetooth or by direct connection, you can select your base material. Today, we're going to be using the premium vinyl, and then you've got your fine point blade in your machine. So now you're all set to go to your machine and click the little Cricut button. Since we're working with vinyl today, we're going to actually be putting our vinyl face up when we stick it on our cutting mat. The last video we were working with HTV and we put it face down with the shiny face down, but this time we're going to be putting it face up. Okay, so now we're ready to load. We're gonna hit our double arrows to load it into our machine, and once the C starts to blink, the little Cricut light, you can go ahead and click on it. Now we can go ahead and hit the double arrows again to unload the mat. Just as a reminder, when we're peeling off our vinyl, we want to go ahead and peel the mat off the vinyl, not the vinyl off the mat, and that'll keep the vinyl from bending. Once you finish cutting your first design, we're going to go back into Cricut Design Space, and then we're going to select shapes and grab a square, because the square is going to act as our background. And we're going to size this for my particular shadow box. I'm going to size it at a 7 inches. And I'm going to click on my original design. I'm going to hide that, and then I'm going to make it so that I can cut out my square. And then we're going to select light cardstock for the base material. Keep the rest of the settings the same. Now to load our paper, we're going to go ahead and put the paper face up, and then we're ready to load. Just like before, we're going to go ahead and peel our mat off of the paper. just so we don't get any folds. So now that we have our pieces already cut out, we're ready to read the vinyl. But one thing I definitely forgot to mention is that it'll be really handy to use a lint brush roller, and you'll see why, because I'm gonna go ahead and stick the pieces of the vinyl as I'm reading it off onto this. I've seen a lot of YouTubers doing this, and honestly, it's been like a game changer. It just keeps everything organized in one place, and then once you're done with it, you can dispose of it. So I'm gonna go ahead and first cut out my vinyl, make sure to cut out the piece that we're going to be using today, and then I will save the rest of it for another project. Okay, so now that we've weeded out our design, we're ready for the next step, and that's to go ahead and put the transfer tape over it. I've gone ahead and cut a piece of transfer tape and put it along the side here, just enough for our design. And the way I like to apply the transfer tape over the design is by just having my transfer tape stick just a small or the edges onto my flat surface. And then I bring my design right up to the edge of that transfer tape and then lie it right down. So now that you have your transfer tape over your design, you want to go ahead and grab your squeegee and run it over the top to make sure that the transfer tape sticks to your vinyl. Now once that's stuck onto your vinyl, you want to peel up the transfer tape and do it sort of sideways so that it makes it a little bit easier. Okay, so now we've got our transfer tape and our vinyl stuck onto the transfer tape, and we're ready to prepare our surface so that we can put this onto our shadow box or our photo box. And what we're going to do is we're going to remove the backing off of the box. And mine comes with a little border that you could use over a picture. In this particular design, I don't need it, so I'm just gonna put that aside since we won't be using that today. And I'm going to grab my background and just sit it over the top of the actual board that it comes with. Now you can tape it on there. I'm not, just because I like to change things around, so maybe I want to use a different background and this paper will be perfectly useful for something else. So I don't really want to put anything on it, but you can do double-sided tape or whatever you prefer. Now the other thing that we're going to do is fill this up with coffee. So you want to take your coffee beans and you'll just start pouring it in and measure the amount of beans that are in there based on how you want it to look. Okay, so I think that's gonna be enough coffee beans. What I'm gonna do is put my backing onto here and then I'm gonna check it out on the other side. Okay, so I think that looks really cool. So I'm gonna go ahead and keep that quantity in there, and I'm gonna proceed with putting on the vinyl onto the glass. So before we put the vinyl on the glass, we're gonna wanna go ahead and clean our surface to make sure that it isn't dirty or oily or anything, because then the vinyl won't stick very well. Even though that I am using removable vinyl, and the reason I'm doing that is just so that if I wanna use this photo box for something else again, I can do that. And if you can take off the glass to clean it, that'll probably work nicely, because my wood piece right here kind of gets a little bit of the fuzzies on there, but this piece was actually glued, so I wasn't able to do that, but you can always pull those out. So we have our shadow box or our photo box here, and I've got my little design, and I'm gonna go ahead and line it up to the area that I just feel looks the best in. So I'm gonna go ahead and right about there, looks really nicely. And again, it doesn't have to be exact, but just wherever it is that you like it. And then you want to grab your squeegee and run it right over the top. Okay, so now that we've got that on there nicely, we'll go ahead and slowly peel the transfer tape off. Alright guys, that's a wrap. We finished today's tutorial and I really hope that you liked this project. If you did, please hit the like button and leave a comment below. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are, if there's anything else that you'd like to see, or if you have any questions about today's tutorial. In addition, don't forget to take a look at the description box below where I have listed all of the items that were used in today's tutorial, along with any resources that I mentioned along the way. And lastly, don't forget to hit the notification button and subscribe to make sure that you don't miss any of my weekly videos. So thank you for joining me today, and I'll see you next time on Ellie Designs.